So if you are interested in watching this later, you can certainly do that. I'm just going to make sure that the YouTube is up and running and I am muted because there is nothing worse than hearing yourself talk, 2 minutes later. All right, looks like this happened to me last time. Let me double check real quick. There it is. Self-talk. All right, there we go. All right, well, we are ready and off we go. So welcome everybody to our webinar here today. I am going to share my screen and we are going to jump right into creating interactive notebooks and portfolios with Book Creator. So I am excited to be here with everybody here today. Again, if you are new or haven't done so yet, if you just joined us, please let us know who you are and where you're from, what you teach. That would be great. And so off we go. If you do have any questions as we go through this webinar today, please put those into the chat window or the Q&A box. My colleague Janet and Wallace are both here today, so I'm sure that they will be happy to answer any questions if I miss them. If you put them in the Q&A box, they will for sure be seen by me, but sometimes in a chat window, it goes by a little bit quick. And sometimes I miss things. So again, if you have any questions, aha moments, thoughts, ideas, things like that, put those into the chat window or into the Q&A box, and we'll be more than happy to answer those questions. All right, so for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jon Smith. For real. I get that a lot, especially when I try to order pizza. People tend to not believe that my name is Jon Smith. And it's even worse if I try to order pizza when I'm not in town, right? So like if I'm out of the state or something like that, and you try to order pizza with the name Jon Smith and an Ohio area code, things really tend to go south. But I usually get my pizza, so that's good. I am the iPod teacher on Twitter or X or whatever it's called today. So if you want to give me a follow, great. If not, no worries. I will not be offended if you do not follow me. I'm also Jon Smith at bookcreator.com. So if you do have any questions after today, always feel free to reach out to my email there. Just make sure you don't put an H in Jon. So it's just Jon Smith at bookcreator.com. I taught special ed for 12 years. I was mostly 5th and 6th grade. After that, I was a tech integration specialist, mostly at the high school, and I did that for 7 years. And now I am here at Book Creator as their senior teacher success manager. So lots of webinars, lots of conferences, school visits, keynotes, basically anything I can do to help schools and districts best utilize their licenses. That's really what I'm here for. I'm married. I've got 3 kids, 13, 10, and 6. I love golf, so I don't know if there's any golfers in this group today. If there are, you can put that into the chat window. I know Janet at least has some golfers in her family, so that's cool. But if you're not a golfer, this usually gets hands raised. Does anybody have a dirty car? I know that's kind of a random question for a Book Creator webinar, but the reason I ask that is because on the side, I'm actually a certified auto detailer. All right, so if you do have a dirty car and anywhere near Ohio, come see me, and I'll be more than happy to detail that dirty ride for you. I do see that we have quite a few people that are international, so probably not going to be driving your car to Ohio anytime soon. All right. Well, before we get into our webinar here today about interactive notebooks and digital portfolios, we're going to do a quick little review. So if you are not that familiar with Book Creator, then I do want to make sure that you have a little bit of information to kind of get you started here. So in the chat window, I am going to put a link. So if you go to app.bookcreator.com, that is our website where you can sign up for an account, whether you choose the free version or you choose to pay for the paid version. You can sign up for an account. Now, you're just going to answer some questions and jump through the hoops, and eventually you will be brought to a screen that looks like this, and this is your library. All right, now, again, I'm not going to go through all of the ins and outs of Book Creator from a getting started perspective, but if you are new, once you go to this screen, I always click the 3 black lines, and that is going to take you to your teacher dashboard. So here in the teacher dashboard, this is where your books and libraries are going to live. And then we also have amazing resources. So we have a Discover section, which is filled with books written by students, written by teachers, written by ambassadors, written by us as a company. There's just a lot of great resources in here, and some of these we're actually going to come back and talk about a little bit later. But I would highly recommend, if you're new to Book Creator, even if you're a seasoned veteran, I would recommend coming in here and taking a look at all of these amazing resources. We also have a certification section. All right. And so I love the certification section after you scroll past my really bad haircut. And then what you'll see is over here on the left-hand side, you'll see 18 videos that will walk you through everything that Book Creator has to offer. Watch these videos whenever you want, as many times as you want, and you are going to get a deep, deep understanding of all of Book Creator's features. Watch the videos, pass the quiz, and then you become a Book Creator certified author. You get a cool badge, you get a certificate of completion. All right, but more importantly, like I said, you get that deep, deep understanding of Book Creator. And again, if you don't have that much knowledge of Book Creator, then this is definitely the place to go. And great question here. When is the second level? So right now we actually don't have a second level. So if you had done this version of our certification, which came out like 2 years ago, we recently updated it like about a year ago, I guess. So you could get the new badge and the new certificate of completion. But right now we don't have a level 2. That is definitely something that we have thought about in the past. Maybe it's something that we will bring to fruition here sometime soon. All right, so we're going to go back in here now, and we're going to start talking about interactive notebooks and portfolios. And I thought, what better way to kick this webinar off than with a little bit of history. All right, so I thought this was interesting too. So I actually did a little bit of research to talk or to find out a little bit more about notebooks, right? And how did the actual notebook start? And so it actually started about 100 BC, which is when paper was invented, all right, in China. So I thought that was, okay, cool. I didn't realize paper was invented in China in 100 BC. Well, if we keep following along with our little timeline, in 1690, the first paper mill was introduced into North America, all right, which I thought was pretty cool. In 1770, there was actually a patent awarded for lined paper, all right. So all these papers that we have with lines on them, I think we kind of take for granted, not realizing that in 1770, there was a patent awarded for those lines on paper. In 1800, Lewis and Clark, all right, were the first known pocket diary, all right, had the first known pocket diary. So as they explored across the North American continent, they were jotting down notes and taking, track or writing down everything that they witnessed and saw. And that was apparently one of the first known pocket diaries. In 1860, the composition notebook. I think a lot of us are familiar with that, especially when you got to college. The little black and white notebooks that you had to fill in all kinds of things in. Those were invented in Germany and France. All right. 1888, legal pads. 1924, the spiral notebook, all right, which ruined lives of teachers and custodians for the rest of history, because as kids are ripping paper out of those spiral notebooks, they're cutting off all the little ripped edges and just leaving them all over the floors of classrooms. Now, this is where things really start to get interesting, because in 1978, the year I was born, that is when the Trapper Keeper came out. All right. And so I'm sure some of you are old enough, like me, to remember the Trapper Keeper. And some of you are probably too young. All right. But I remember the Trapper Keeper, and I had gobs of them. All right. I think I had a Trapper Keeper in every color. I think I had Trapper Keepers with dinosaurs on them at one point, cars on them. Love Trapper Keeper, and love the little noise that the Velcro flap made right every time I opened and closed it. So again, now hopefully we're starting to jog that memory and dig deep into your old fond memories. Well, in 1980, a company named Paper King came out. I was not aware of this. In 1990, Lisa Frank notebooks came out. So again, something that I was not really very familiar with. But then here we go in 1997 through 2000, Mead created the 5-star notebook and Moleskine started coming around. So these are more popular nowadays still. I think ones that we're probably more familiar with. And then in 2015, this was probably the more recent innovation in notebooks, and that is the Rocketbook. So if you're familiar with Rocketbook, when I had the original Rocketbook, you could write your notes right inside the Rocketbook, and when you were done with them, you scanned a QR code, it uploaded your notes somewhere, and then you could microwave the notebook, and it would erase all of the ink inside, and it would allow you to reuse that notebook, right? So very cool until you microwave the notebook too many times, and you almost set your microwave on fire. Not that I did that at all, but I did want to let you know that it was a possibility. So what do these all have in common? Now, I'm going to answer this question here real quick. When I went to repeat the first level certificate, it does not work. I'm not sure why that would be the case. It should let you go back and watch those videos whenever you want. So if you have further questions about that, I would direct those to support@bookcreator.com, and they should allow you to go back and redo that. But if not, I would definitely reach out to support. Okay. So back to our original or our question here, what do all of these notebooks have in common? All right. Now, other than the notebook that you could microwave, right, which was pretty novel at the time, I think all of these notebooks have in common one thing. All right. Now, is that they're boring. All right. These notebooks are boring and these are not exciting. I don't know of many children who really just were like, oh, I can't wait to get out my notebook and start taking notes. I know I certainly wasn't that kid. I took good notes. I did it because I wanted a good grade, but I certainly didn't enjoy it. All right. And so the other thing that I have realized is that these notebooks, what they have in common is that they do not allow for all students to have access. I taught special ed for 12 years, and if I gave my students a piece of paper and said, take notes, that was it. There was nothing there to help those students be successful. All right. So now what? Well, there's good news, right? This all sounds like a little doom and gloomy, but there is good news, and I don't want you to give up, all right? Because those notebooks aren't motivating, but that doesn't mean there isn't something better out there, all right? And in my opinion, that better is why you are here today, all right? And so we're going to talk about how you can use Book Creator as a way to make interactive notebooks and/or digital portfolios. All right, so I've got loads and loads of examples. I want to pull up this example first. This one happens to be on a specific reading program that a school district uses. And it's really fascinating because there's a table of contents in this notebook. So your students can make a copy of this notebook, or you can assign the notebook to them, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But then there are table of contents. And so maybe the kids are doing the reading writing workshop portion of this program. They click on page 11 and it takes them right to the reading and writing workshop. We've got listening comprehension, making predictions, lots of stuff. And again, we're not trying to reinvent some of the stuff that you already do, or just maybe trying to make it a little bit better and a little more interactive, all right? A little more meaningful, accessible to these students, engaging. All right. And so there's an example of a notebook. Here's another example of a notebook. All right. This just, again, happens to be ELA, but we've got interactive vocabulary, reading strategies, Peel paragraphs, right? All kinds of amazing things. And so the students can simply take this template and then add their own bits and pieces to it, which makes it, again, personalized to them, but very, very meaningful. All right. Now, as we keep going through this, notebooks, as you probably know, based on paper notebooks, is not just for English language arts. There are a lot of different subjects that you can use notebooks in. I would venture to say all of them could use notebooks. Now, I really love this one in a math class. All right. And the reason I love this one in the math class is because as kids are learning, they can use our pen tool to draw, which we're going to talk about some of this in a little bit, shapes, text boxes. They can make their own story problems. They can solve the problems right here within Book Creator. And you can even take it a little bit further and add things like images and videos and things like that inside of your notebooks. So again, we're going to talk about those in a little bit. There's also examples here in this book for science. And if you're curious, well, if I'm going to share this book with everybody later, the answer is yes. I will make sure that to do that. Janet and Wallace, you're on here with me. If you remind me, if I forget, I'll make sure to share this book out with everybody. But here's some great examples of using Book Creator for science notebooks. Now this one I think is really cool too. It's just a very simple, right? Plant diary. What did your plant look like on day 1? What did it look like on day 5? I personally remember doing this activity in science class. All right. I think it was in elementary school, and it was not great for me because I was a terrible artist. And so I had to, draw a picture of what my plant looked like on day 1 versus what it looked like on day 5. Now, you might be able to see a difference there, but it was like day 7 and day 12 that looked very similar, right, to me. And I didn't like it because I couldn't draw real well. Well, in Book Creator, you can add pictures into those journals, right, or into those notebooks. History, same kinds of things. All right, here's a master copy that a teacher created. And it's basically just a map here, and there's lots of questions that the kids can answer. So edit, must be in edit mode. Drag and drop the names of the landscapes onto the right places, which I think is really cool. And I love the fact that those are being put right on top, right, of an actual map. All right, so that is very, very cool. So again, this interactive notebook is filled with drag and drop activities that your students can do. All right, so we've shown you some examples. You probably have already an idea in your mind about how you can use Book Creator for notebooks. But I want to show you specifically what I believe to be the reasons why Book Creator, this makes Book Creator so much better, right, for a notebook than other things like paper and pencil. All right, and simply because of access and motivation. All right, so let's start with how we can help with organization. All right, so here in Book Creator, you can create sections of your books, and you can link those sections as table of contents. All right, now we kind of already showed you that a little bit, but I'm going to show you a little bit more about how to do that. So let's pretend, for example, that this page is going to be my table of contents. I can simply click the plus button, add a text box, and then I'm just going to add some text. All right, and I'm going to say, math. All right. And then I might say science. All right. So if I want to create different sections, right? Math, science, social studies, and so forth. Now, what I'm going to do in our new text box is I'm going to highlight the word math. I'm going to click the little link button, and I can link that out to another website. In this case, that's not what I want to do, or I can link it to a specific page. All right, so if the math section was on page 4, I click 4 and hit save, and now you'll see that that math is highlighted. Same thing with science. I click science and link and say that was on page 5 and save it, and social studies was on page 6 and then save it. Now, when I click done, I've got my text box here. I can still click the inspector and change the size and fonts and all that good stuff right there. But now when I click on math, it's going to open up to page 4. Now, I couldn't remember what page math was on, so it went to the wrong place. But I love the fact that I can link these pages to different sections. So one of the things I do is I'll give you another example of this. So for example, my daughter, this is her own reading book for first grade. So I've created this table of contents, and when you click on it, it takes you right to that page. But if I look at the pages view, you can see the cover of the book is the leading page of each of those links. And then she ends each of her stories with a drawing that she made. So whether you're ending a story with a drawing or you're creating a table of not a table of contents, but a cover for that chapter, however you want it to look, you can use Book Creator to organize and get your thoughts going as you're building this notebook. All right, so I absolutely love it. Now, the other thing that's really powerful in terms of organization with Book Creator is that you can't lose it, okay? You cannot lose this. So in the past, I might go home and I can't remember where I put my Trapper Keeper, or my dog ate it, or I left it in my friend's car, or it fell out of my backpack on the way to school or on the way home. You don't have to worry about that, because when you're using the online version of Book Creator and you join a teacher's library and you start building your books, those books will always be there. All right, so you don't have to worry about losing it. And the other thing that's really awesome about this, I don't have one here with me, but the other thing about notebooks, if you've got a binder, is you had to, if you wanted to change the order of your pages or you wanted to add some pages later, you had to pull across the binder and it made that clinking noise, clink, right? You had to take pages out, add pages in, put the binder back together, clink it back together, and hope that everything was okay. Now, if your papers didn't have holes in it, then it was a whole different thing because then you had to find a hole punch and you had to squeeze a hole punch and make holes right so you could stick the paper into the binder. But guess what? In Book Creator, it's not that hard. All I do is go to the pages view and I see all of the pages of my notebook. And if I want to move something around, I just click and drag and move it around. I do not have to punch new holes. I do not have to find a binder. I can simply move things. And if I want to add another page, not just move them around, I click the three dots and just say insert a page. And now it inserted a blank page so I can take new notes on something that I am doing. And if I want to get rid of it, same thing. I click the three dots and click delete. All right. So very easy to work with. All right. Very easy to work with. Now, that is just organization. The other thing that I think is very powerful with Book Creator is that it is media rich. My notebooks in the past, if I felt like drawing and I made really nice drawings, then maybe they were drawing rich, right? But my notebooks were not media rich by any stretch of the imagination. So what kinds of media can we put into Book Creators? Well, the very first one that I think is the most powerful under media is images. All right. And so we have an image search built right in. My old notebook did not have an image search built right in. So if I'm doing something on plants, I click in plants, I search for one, I click on the image and click add, and it's going to add this beautiful, beautiful image of plants that I can resize, move around, and put anywhere on that page. These are not the grainy thumbnails that your kids like to drag into presentations that look like garbage. These are beautiful, beautiful images. And again, they can be added to your pages very easily. Now, you don't have to just take the digital images, right, that you find in our image search that are copyright free, by the way. You can also click the plus button, go to your images, and you can upload images from your computer. So, maybe your kids were drawing something to happen because they like to draw. They can take a picture of that with their computers and upload that right into Book Creator as well. So it doesn't just have to be the images from the image search. You can also find images from Google if you open up a new tab and you want to go find images that way, whatever floats your boat, whatever fits your notebook the best. We do also have the ability to input videos. Now, I love videos, especially when it comes to math and science. All right. And so I'm going to click on the camera. And instead of taking a still picture, which is awesome too, I'm going to record video. And it's going to give me a little countdown. I'm going to tilt my camera up here a little bit. Hey, Mr. Smith, in class, you were talking about angles, and I could care less until I got home and realized there's a 90-degree angle right there between the ceiling and the wall. All right. And so what I love about this is that kids can take whatever it is that they learned in school and they can put it into their notebook as a video to kind of find it in the real world, right? And document that. So whether it's a notebook or a portfolio, the camera is fantastic. Now, it'll take a few seconds for that video to load and then get put on the page like it does now. But I think that is very, very powerful. I don't think that we use cameras enough in school. And I think if we can do this, the more, the better. All right. Now, from a science perspective, I was actually just talking about this earlier today. In science class, we would do science experiments all the time, right? We would do the experiment, we'd come back and we would have to reflect on it, and we'd have to do things. And then like a week later, I'm looking at my science notebook and I'm trying to write down something that happened. And I'm like, I forgot what happened, right? I don't remember because nobody videoed the experiment. Nobody wrote anything down at the time. We had to come back and think about it later. Guess what? With videos, you can simply put those videos, you can record the entire science experiment and put that in there. And now you can go back anytime you want and reflect on what you saw. Now, some kids, I know this is a little bit difficult to grasp, but in the day of, Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, there are some kids who still don't like having their images and their videos online. All right. Guess what? That's okay. Under the plus button, under media, we do have the ability to record your voice. So if a student wants to simply reflect on something that happened, you can record your voice. And I have seen some amazing examples of this, whether it's science or math, but one of my favorites is actually musical performances. So my son just had a choir concert the other day and we videotaped it. I can take that video, I can put it right in here so he can go back and watch it, and then he can use the record button to reflect on how he did during that performance and ways that he can improve or things that he did really well. All right, so you can use the audio button to record all kinds of things. Another great example of the recording button that I think is powerful is the art classroom. All right, so I don't know how many of you go to, see an art exhibit and look at a piece of painting or a sculpture or something, just go like, what? Like, why is that painting called Spiders at Dawn? I don't know. And it doesn't make any sense. Well, kids can do this, right? They can put their artwork in here and then they can reflect on it using the record button. And they can help people who are viewing their artwork understand it a little bit more. All right. So I absolutely love this. Now, down here at the bottom, you'll see these crayon images that I have. So one more piece of media that you can add into your notebooks to help enhance the pages is to click the plus button and shapes. And right here at the top, there is a search bar. So if I type in something like crayon, then all of these cool crayons pop up. I choose the one that I want, and it adds it right there to the page to make my designs a little bit better. All right. So I love the different options we have here. Now I will, in full transparency, the noun project icons are part of our paid version. So if you do not have a paid version, you will not be able to use those noun project icons. All right. Another thing that's really cool about using Book Creator for these notebooks is you can make them interactive. And one of the best examples that I have of an interactive book is this one right here. All right. And this one was written by Randy. She is our new literacy specialist. And so I'm going to make a copy of this book right here into my own library so that we can see what it looks like. All right. So I'm going to go to the library and I'm going to see Randy's book now pop up. Now, in terms of interactivity, here's what I mean. So once the book is in the library for the students, they can either copy the book or they can get the book assigned, which again, we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But when the student then goes into the book, you'll see here that there are some really awesome interactive elements, right? So listen to the letter, listen to the sound, watch Randy's face and what it looks like when she's making certain letters, but then record yourself. And as we go through this, there's more similar activities, but then we get into things like drag and drop, all right? So collect the letter. All right, so I'm going to go to the A. I'm going to drag that to the bucket. Are there any other A's? There's one. I'm going to drag that to the bucket. Here's an A. I'm going to drag that to the bucket. Here's an A. I'm going to drag that to the bucket. So now, instead of drawing a line from an A to an A or whatever you might do on a worksheet, we can make the books a little more interactive. And then it goes into other things too, sounding it out, watching videos, and then eventually, map, right? Dragging the letter down onto the right sound. Okay. So many ideas for using interactive elements, all right, within Book Creator. So I absolutely love this. All right. So I'm going to scroll back. I got to find my, I got to find my library. There we go. All right, now I did have a question pop up. Uh, Um, mm, mm, mm. That's a good question. In the digital book, required to be an ambassador? Can we use video or audio using artificial intelligence technology? I honestly don't have an answer to that question. I'm sorry. I am not part of the requirements for the ambassador program. But what I will say is here is David's email. David Hotler is our community guru, and he's the one taking over the ambassador program. So I would email David any questions you have about the ambassador program. All right, so interactive elements. Okay, so drag and drop, like in Randy's books. And then, like I said earlier, we have the assignment feature, all right, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Templates. All right. So there's different types of templates that you can use for your students for interactive notebooks. You can have teacher-made templates. You can have student-made templates. And we even have some books in our Remixables library. So if you are a teacher and you want to make your own templates, go for it. All right. You're just going to build a book and you're going to leave certain elements of that book empty so that your students can answer those questions. Student-made templates, maybe some students think, you know what, I think we can do better with the science experiment. Maybe they want to make something. I love doing that to students, putting the ownership on them and say, hey, here's the piece of paper that I've got that's going to be your interactive notebook. If you don't like that, can you make something better? And a lot of times they can, right? So they're going to make an interesting template themselves. And then we also have some really cool books in our template section that you might use for this case. We happen to have one called Notebooks, right? So we do have an interactive notebook template that you can certainly use. And when you click to add new pages, you'll see things like the section headings. You'll see things like photos and text. And you'll even see things like a planner, right? Which I think is pretty cool, like a daily planner. We also have in there the ability to, like I said, the students can make their own templates and then they can copy those as well. All right. And again, that assignment feature, which is going to be very, very important coming up. All right, so moving right along, we talked about templates. Oh, I forgot. Sorry, the Remixables library. So when you click on the three black lines to the top left and go to your teacher dashboard under Discover that we talked about a little bit earlier, there is a section called Student Templates, and everything in here is remixable, which means you can copy it right into your own library. So maybe you want to look at our literacy samples and you want to pull out the the alphabet book like I showed you. You can click on the alphabet book, click remix and choose your library. Click copy and that book will go straight into your library. And now you can edit the copy and then give your students whatever you want them to do. All right, so there's a lot of amazing templates in there, everything from literacy to getting started to anything you can imagine. All right. Now, another thing that I think is really important about notebooks that has become a lot easier and definitely more engaging with Book Creator is the ability to give feedback. All right. Now, my wife, she loved notebooks, right? When she was in the classroom and she made her students do, little writing prompts every day. And she would actually go in and she would respond to every student's book. But that meant that she had to carry home like a 50-gallon trash can full of journals every day so that she could write responses in those books. Well, in Book Creator, you can do something much better. And that is simply clicking the plus button down here at the bottom and opening up the feedback tab. So as the library owner, you, the teacher, are able to view anybody's books. You can flip through the pages, you can edit those if you wanted to, and you can leave comments. And so you can click add comment, you can type your comment in there and click post. And now your students can see the comments that you have left. They can give it a little reaction if they want to. And if you allow it, they can even reply back. All right, so there's a little gear here that says, yes, students can comment back to me or not. You make that decision. But here's how things are even better, because this, other than being on a computer, is not much different than my wife, leaving comments inside of the student notebooks. Well, now I can also add comments as video, audio, emojis, giffies, animated emojis, and even stickers. All right, because somebody does something good, you say very good, and you click post and you leave it there. But with things like video and audio, now you're giving feedback in multiple modalities. And so maybe you have students who, cannot hear what kind of feedback you are going to use with audio. So maybe use video and you can do American Sign Language in the comments. Maybe your kids, maybe you want to save time and not have to type everything out. You can leave an audio recording. All right. And of course, if somebody does something good, just say celebrate, right? Have some fun with this and put it in a fun Giphy, right? So now your kids know that feedback, taking notes, it doesn't have to be a difficult process. All right. This can be fun and engaging for your students. Another thing that I think is really, really powerful about using Book Creator for these interactive notes and portfolios is that you can actually keep the parents in the loop at all times. My children, they have this program in their school called Parent Square, which is fantastic, right? Teachers can post messages, they can send pictures of what's going on in the classroom every day, which is great because as parents, then we can see what's happening. But maybe your school doesn't use something like Parent Square. And so in this case, what you can do is go to your library, and for each individual student book, right, each individual student notebook, you can click the share button and publish the book online. I would leave it private and I would turn remixing off, but then you're going to copy that link and you're just going to send it to the parents and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, here's John's interactive notebook for the first 9 weeks. And guess what? Every time John adds something to that notebook or the teacher adds something to that notebook, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, the parent gets to see it. And so this one single book can become a living document, right? A living, breathing book of the entire semester, the entire year, or the first 9 weeks, or whatever the case may be. You can send that to parents and they can have an updated version of everything that's going on. All right, now we're coming to the end of our example book here today. So I want to show you a few extra tips and tricks and things that might help you and your students as you're using Book Creator as an interactive notebook or as a digital portfolio. And the first one I want to talk about is graphic organizers. All right, so if you click the plus button and you click more, the very first time you click more, you're going to see files and embed, and that's it. If you are interested in doing more things under that more category, you're going to click add apps. You're going to see 9 additional apps that you can add into your book creator experience if you want. I highly recommend that you click on each app and look at the privacy details first, because some of these apps are appropriate for all students. Some of these apps are age specific. So I would focus on looking at that and making sure that it is appropriate. If it is, you turn it on and you decide which libraries are going to be able to use it. And when you go back to the plus button and click more, any of the apps that you turned on are going to be there. Graphic organizers is one of my favorites. All right. And because I can click on this graphic organizer, choose the style that I want, and add it to my book. And it's going to simply add the graphic organizer right into your page. And your students can then go in here and they can click and they can add text for anything that they want. And it helps them organize their thoughts in a fun kind of way. And of course, in true book creator fashion, I don't have to just keep using text. I can click the plus button and I can add audio buttons right on top of the sections here if I want to. So I love this because it does allow your students, again, to use Book Creator kind of in an interactive way for more things. Now, our newest feature I've been teasing, right, for a little while is a game changer. All right, so as a teacher, if you create some form of template that you want your students to use, but you, in the past, had to have your students click the book button and copy the book. All right, and so fine, it wasn't that difficult of a process, but it was a process. And every once in a while, a student might put the book in the wrong library. All right. So they're taking notes in math class and they put the book into science class. And then they're confused where it's at. Whatever. It happens. Well, now that has all changed. So you can create a template for your students and then click the share button and say assign book. And what you're going to do is assign it to everybody or a specific group of kids if you want to differentiate. And then you click start assignment. And every student that is part of this library will then automatically get a copy of the book that they can now edit. All right, which is awesome. All right, because you don't have to do anything other than click assignment. They don't have to copy anything. It just does it for them. The name of the book will show up, their name will show up, and they can go ahead and just start editing. All right, which is awesome. If you didn't understand that before, it's awesome. All right, now I'm going to show you another tip, and this is kind of a power user tip. Okay, so I've got my newest feature right at the assignment button, but guess what? That usually makes a question appear. If my students make a copy of the book, can I add pages to it later to my master copy, and then they get the pages? And the answer to that is no. All right. And so very similar to like Google Docs, right? If I make a copy of somebody's Google Doc, if they go back and mess up the original, it's not going to do anything to my book, right? Or my Google Doc. So similar kind of thing here, right? If you make a copy of the book for the kids and then go back in and add pages later, it's not going to do anything in the student book. So you have two choices. One, you can make a super big template, right? That has all of the stuff that you want to do for a long time. And then your kids can have access to all of that up front. Here's my issue with that, because it happened to me a lot. Hey, kids, do pages 1, 2, and 3. And as soon as I say go, I get a hand raised up that says, what do I do on page 12? And you're like, no, no, no. I said pages 1, 2, and 3, not page 12. So if you give kids a bunch of stuff ahead of time, more often than not, they're going to try to go ahead in there and work ahead. True? All right. I think you probably will agree with me. Well, guess what? We have something better than that. So if you want, you just give the kids the first couple of pages. Let them make the copy, or you assign it and they get the first couple of pages. Then you can click the pages button. You see any extra pages that you want, you hit select, click on the extra pages and say copy to. You're going to go into your library. You're going to see all of the students' books that were part of their assignment. You click on it, or you click the button at the top for all of their books. Now, I'm not going to do that. And you click copy. And guess what? It's going to take those 3 additional pages and it's going to dump them into everybody else's books. All right, so you can always add additional pages whenever you want just by simply copying them into the other student pages. All right, the other student books. All right, so definitely one of my favorite kind of like hacky things to do. Other resources that we have, we've got, and this here in the Discover section as well, daily writing prompts for older students and younger students, and lots of other resources. All right, so that is everything that I have for you here today, other than the fact that I'm going to copy this link and share with you in the chat window the link to the book that I just presented from. So if you do want to use that for ideas and keep that with you at all times, you can certainly do that. Now, if you have any questions, please put those into the chat window. Thank you, Eric, for being here. Appreciate that. And I'm going to invite my colleagues to jump back on here too. If you have anything else to say, Janet or Wallace, I think I forgot Wallace. I'm gonna turn you on to a panelist here if you have any extra words of wisdom. But if you don't, and you don't have any other questions, I just want to say thanks everybody for being here. I really do appreciate it. I'll stick around for a few minutes to see if there's anything else, but be safe out there and happy bookmaking, everybody. Have a great day. All right. Yes, thank you too. Thank you, Janet. Appreciate it.
Great job.
All right. Thanks. Thanks for being
Awesome.
here.
Yep. See you later.
Right. Thank you, Helena. All right. And I don't see any additional questions. So I am going to hop off here because I have to get ready for another webinar. Thanks, everybody.